Welcome to Our Voices. I have a special guest with me. She is Miss Jeni Burns Riser, and she is running for City Council. Jeni, how are you today?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing fine, doing fine. Thank you for coming on Our Voices.
Well, thank you for asking me. Really, thanks.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Um, again, you are running for City Council. Again, I appreciate you doing that. Before I get into my questions, Jeni, please tell the audience something about Jeni Riser.
Well, I am a teacher at Riverside High School. I teach special education, social studies, and environmental science and learning skills. I had a business. I still cater a little bit, but not full time like I did prior to the pandemic. I have a catering business, Miss Groovy's Kitchen. But when the pandemic shut businesses down, and meetings went away and conferences went away, after a good bit of waiting around for it all to bounce back, I decided to go back into the classroom last spring and then took a full-time job at Riverside this fall. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm a mom of adult children. We have a blended family of 5 kids. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. I live on the east end of Charleston. I'm a lifelong resident of Charleston. My parents, my mom grew up over on the west side until she moved to Elkview when she was in junior high. And she went to Tiscawa Elementary School, and my grandparents had a dairy farm. If you drive out past on 60 or 79 out towards Elkview, if you look, once you go under the bridge on the interstate off the exit, you look on either side. My family had a dairy farm that the interstate ran right through our property. My grandfather was a riverboat captain on the river, and family stories that my dad was conceived on the river, but I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, we're pretty entrenched here in Charleston, and that's a little bit about me.
Ready to get
Anything else
started?
you want to know?
No, I'm good. You ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right. Tell me, Jeni, why do you want to run for City Council, and what goals do you hope to achieve?
Well, I think really when everybody was home during the pandemic, I think it was really rough I know it was rough on my family. My husband is a social worker. He works with people with disabilities. And, that job is not one that you can abandon if you don't have people to work. And the people on his caseload, often were left without direct care workers because either people who felt vulnerable medically to go into the home, he's got medically vulnerable clients. And if someone that was working for them felt like they might expose that person to COVID, it was a real, at that point in the beginning, it was a life and death endeavor for everybody. My husband literally worked 26 hours one day because the person that was supposed to work the overnights in the house couldn't make it. So he covered a day shift, and then he went right into covering a night shift. And then I was home because my business had shut down. And, that was just a really, I don't know that we're talking about the effect of what we went through yet, because we're all so happy to get back to where hopefully some normalcy. But that was just a real pivot point in my life. And I realized that I didn't want to keep doing things the way I was doing before. I was working a lot. I went back into teaching because I couldn't stand to watch my husband work like he was, trying to keep our bills paid. The bills in my business weren't going away, even though I was shut down. I had to lay off people. I watched friends who had been in the business for in the food service industry, you know, lifelong careers collapsing and right before my eyes because of what was happening. And I get emotional about thinking about it now. And sorry. But it just was like this moment. And then I start, you know, things are changing in Charleston. I'm a little bit older. I've got some perspective, you know, I've got a little longer lens than some, and not as long as others. And I see that there, you know, there's real opportunity in Charleston, but we also have some real challenges in Charleston. And I've advocated for people for a really long time. I've worked on policy since the water crisis, and you know, several people had encouraged me to run, and at the last minute, I went down to City Hall and threw my name in the ring. So I'm running because I believe that Charleston can thrive. I believe we can do hard things together if we come together. But we, you know, I think we also got to be willing to really be honest about what's happening in our city and the crises that we're seeing unfold right before our eyes, and be willing to come up with, try some solutions. And I want to be a part of that.
Jeni, I was at the first forum at the Clay Center, and we talked about small businesses, the homeless situation. Two main things right there was being discussed. All the candidates, I mean, all the candidates gave excellent responses. And in your opinion, which to you is more important as far as a matter of priority? If you are elected into office, what is the first matter of importance to you, the homeless situation or small business?
Well, I kind of think that we need to do two things at once.
Okay.
Right? You know, I mean, we can do two things at once. We can tackle, you know, that homeless problem. It's huge. And, you know, I think that we have to be specific on what we're talking about. Are we talking about homelessness? Or are we talking about mental illness? Are we talking about drug addiction? Are we talking about a criminal element that either lives on the street, or quite frankly, there's a criminal element that doesn't live on the street who is benefiting from a drug business that is crippling our state and our communities and everything that goes along with that. And then we have a group of people, by no fault of their own, maybe it is their fault, who cares, who really just are lacking 2 paychecks to get back up on their feet. And, you know, I have a friend that I met during the pandemic who was homeless, was in that bucket of women that literally needed $1,500 to get into housing. But it was almost impossible for her to reach that $1,500. And she then was put in a homeless shelter with a huge bucket full of people. So she said she slept with her purse, and she was sleeping beside the drug addicted and the mentally ill, and she was scared to death. And that was not her. It was, you know, it was affecting her mental illness. I mean, not her, she wasn't mentally ill. It was really making her feel scared, and that was not the place she wanted to be. I think, you know, we've got to determine who's coming, how many homeless people are here, and what their needs are. We need some real raw data on all of that. And I'd like to work to to make that happen. I'd like to work with Doug Scaff and the state of West Virginia to get, I want $100,000. I think the state at minimum should cough up $100,000 in mental health services. It's almost impossible to get anybody a bed in crisis, either in drug crisis or in mental health crisis. So I think the city, it's not just the city can't solve the problem on its own, first and foremost. So it's going to take more than an overnight sweep. But in the same lane, we've got a population of people who are negatively affecting another population of people. They're making them feel scared. Now that I'm running for city council, people start sending me their stories of how they're afraid to go downtown, or business owners are talking about how they have to clean up. It's not pretty, but they got to clean up feces before they can even open their doors. They try to get people to move out of their doorways. They just keep coming back, and then it's deterring businesses, people to do business downtown. I think I want to be laser focused on incentivizing new development and recruiting new businesses to come downtown. We're not going to be able to afford anything if we don't have a tax base. People who want to work need to be working. We need to encourage a thriving middle class in Charleston. It's a big bunch of stuff to do. But there's not the only subject anybody wants to talk about is homelessness, but there's a whole lot of other subjects that need to be talked about. Infrastructure, sidewalks, people with disabilities. I watch people driving up the road in wheelchairs up West Washington Street with a load of traffic behind them and a semi passing by because they can't get on the sidewalk because there's too many cracks in it. So that's a long answer to a question. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but it's a lot. I think we've got a lot of challenges and we need to do a lot of things at one time.
Jeni, I haven't said this to anyone, but I'm gonna say this to you now. When the subject of the homeless came up, Frazier gave a good answer. Mental illness. Chuck Hampshire even said, there's no magic bullet to this. The problem, I believe, this is me talking.
Okay.
The problem we have right now in Charleston is, yes, there's a problem. We see, okay, yeah, there's a problem there, but no one wants to really address it, okay? And no one wants to really look at the root because, and let's be honest here, okay? This didn't happen when Mayor Amy Goodwin stepped foot in office. It didn't just start when she stepped in office, because before 4 years of Amy Goodwin, there were 16 years of Danny Jones. And if we're gonna be real about this issue, we're gonna talk about this head on.
Let's do it.
So whoever watches this, if they don't like it, they can come see me.
Okay.
But and again, this has been going on for years.
Yep, you're right.
And now we're at a point where it's just, it's really a 5-alarm fire. And again, there's no quick solution to this situation. I just hope that whoever is elected, that it does come to a positive solution. You mentioned small businesses, tax breaks. Well, taxes. Are you in favor of giving companies tax breaks to small business owners?
Yes. And I'd like to look at how we can also connect businesses to financing and even a tax amnesty to business. The B&O tax, to give a tax amnesty to businesses might not be a huge deal to the city right now, but it's a huge deal to a business, especially when, I mean, I have a friend who sold his house just to keep his business going and moved in with his parents. A tax break or a forgiveness, maybe just a forgiveness of 2020 taxes, because right, it was 2019, 2020. Even that forgiveness might be the difference between life or death for a small business. And I think I really just don't want to see any small business going under because they haven't felt supported by the city that they're in. And it's, I see businesses shutting down, like long-standing businesses. And most of the time they're telling me it was because they can't bounce back from the COVID. Costs are rising. Especially in the food industry, food costs have risen 40% over the past year. And we've had to buy PPE, gloves went from $39 a case to $109 a case overnight. And those kinds of things, when you don't have any income coming in, is devastating. And by no fault of that business. I would talk to a friend who owns a retail store. She was saying, she had just bought the retail store. COVID shut everything down. I mean, we've all just done all these crazy pivots. She was doing beauty boxes that she was putting out the door, but that's not the same kind of income as if someone's walking through your door doing business for a special event. I mean, it affects so many things. So I think we've got to look at any ways possible to support small businesses and help them get back and thriving again. And I just don't think enough people are really looking at it that way. I mean, you've hit on something that has been really bothering me. I feel like we talk around a lot of problems. We have a lot of meetings, but we all know what the problems are. We've just got to be ready to find solutions and get real about the solutions. And a lot of these problems are, all hands on deck.
Yeah. Jeni, you mentioned something about growing the middle class. There's upper class, middle class, and I hate to say this, the lower class, okay? West Virginia is one of the poorest states in the nation. If you're trying to grow the middle class, do you have a vision for the lower class? And again, I'm not trying to say this to look down my nose at them, look down on them. But those at the bottom, do you have a vision for those who are below the middle class? And what do you suggest for them to come up to middle class?
Well, I think that if we are laser focused on incentivizing development and recruiting new businesses, that is about growing the middle class. Means you're bringing people out of poverty into that middle class, right? You're creating jobs and opportunities for a class of people who may be living below the poverty line to get better jobs. And I tried in my own business to go to $15 minimum wage. The most I could do realistically was start people out at $13.50. I had a couple of employees doing $15, but the reality is I wasn't making enough money to keep the doors open and pay those wages. But if we're recruiting businesses that are why are we talking about just a minimum wage? Let's talk about higher wages, businesses that are going to employ people at $25 an hour. And then,
but okay, so you mentioned $25 an hour. What's the plan?
What about the tech industry? What about that growing tech, we are on 64, 77, and 79, all converge into Charleston. Why are we not looking at businesses that would benefit from being 3 hours away from major cities, 3-4 hours away from major cities with a better cost of living? It is possible to sell ourselves where we are. We now have an international airport. We need broadband. Through, you know, we are centrally located to thrive. And if you're a tech business, that wants to be here, you might create the infrastructure to be here. Look what they did down in Bluefield, Princeton area with Intel or Intuit. You know, we've got the former president of Intuit as the president of Marshall University now. Why are we not partnering with Marshall University to bring tech jobs here? Marshall University has one of the best undergrad cybersecurity programs in the nation. Why aren't jobs from that program trickling into Charleston?
Good point. So we talk about.
Oh, you froze up.
Huh? Oh, probably the Wi-Fi. You okay? Oh, you froze up. Hold on. You there?
Can you see me? You froze up on me?
Yeah, the internet. Okay. I believe a storm is coming. So, Jenny, there's a lot to go over. And again, I know you're busy and you're getting ready for Tuesday, primary election day. Jenny, a few more questions and I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
How do you feel about diversity, equity, and inclusion? There's a big gap when it comes to that particular field there, because African Americans in Charleston, I mean, they make well, on a state level, it's less than the median income per the statistics. How this is gonna be a tough question right here.
Okay.
How do you level the playing field?
Well, that's a tough question, isn't it? Because I don't even know if the playing field's been leveled for women yet.
And again, and I don't mean to. I'm not trying to ask you this question to stump you or try to.
No, you're not.
Okay.
You're not at all. And I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I came back with the playing field isn't. I do believe that the playing field isn't level for women at all. I've thought about this a lot. Like, you know, I'm a woman, so that's my only perspective. I don't live in your shoes, but I've thought a long time about like how as women we don't have a lineage of CEOs to look up to, right? My mom was a homemaker and then she was a clerk at a coal company. My dad was the guy. My dad was the director of operations for emergency services and homeland security. So I saw my dad in that role as a leader, as the director, but my lineage and the women in my family they didn't have those roles. So I think that I've thought a lot about like, what does it mean to be a woman in a leadership role where men, white men, more specifically, have this lineage and expectation that you're going to be ... There's an expectation that you're going to be a lawyer. There's an expectation that you're going to follow your dad's footsteps into the next level. And that opens up, even in a person's mind, the possibility of, yes, I can do this. So I think we have to change our mindset. I know this sounds kind of flippant, but I'll kind of throw it to you because I'm interested in this question. What kind of lineage have you seen in your family in those leadership roles, and how has that limited what you aspire to be? You know, like I'm the first woman in my family, on my mom's side of the family, to go to college. And that was because my mom was pushing me to go to college and get a degree. But her mom didn't push her to go to college and to get a degree. And still, my mom also pushed me to get married and have a family. So you're going to go and get the degree, but then you're going to quit work and raise your family. These expectations, you know, I just have really thought a lot about it. Our expectations for education, of course, we need to educate our women and our minority community members. We have to create those opportunities for them. We need to create leadership organizations where people have that expectation of, yes, just because you're a woman or you're a minority, we expect you to be in these positions of authority, and encourage that, and maybe even teach that, right? Teach that leadership. What does it mean to be a leader? Because I know I could probably blow it really fast.
Okay.
So what do you think about that? I want to know what you think about that. You can cut this out, but I'm curious what you think.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel that right now, politics and social issues, they are in hand with each other, because for one, and again, we have gone back 50 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It started with the 2008 election with President Obama. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at the 2010 midterm where President Obama, they lost the Senate. So the Republicans took over the Senate. Then in 2014, it was the House. So you look at gerrymandering. You look at stripping away voting rights for African Americans. You look at things like police brutality on unarmed Black men, but there's no legislation for that. And comes the Trump administration. You're looking at dismantling civil rights divisions within the DOJ. You look at all of what's going on, especially with especially George Floyd. And you look at the John Lewis voting rights bill. That's one factor right there. And then the George Floyd, George Floyd bill, just human rights, civil rights, is those two main things right there. And we have a senator who, and I'll say it again, I'm a big boy, he can come see me about it, and I'm not gonna call him a senator, Manchin. Because what he did was, he pimped the Black church, in my opinion. He pimped the Black church. He got the Black church to vote for him in 2018 because he ran against Patrick Morrissey. He won by 17,000 votes. Of that 17,000, Jenny, 15,000 were African Americans who voted for him. And now what he's doing, he's not trying to end the filibuster.
Oh, good phrase.
So when it comes to social issues and everything, this is a microcosm of racism. So then when we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, again, we're just saying we want the playing field to be level. That's it. but it seems like there's always something in the way. And now, you as a teacher in Kanawha County schools, what is the big topic in the legislature? The anti-racism bill, as they call it. And you cannot teach Black history? If you
Well, I
remember,
teach Black history. They can't legislate that. I will say that I was the only teacher that during Black History Month had her door decorated with, renowned Black scientists. So, I want to acknowledge that we do need to teach. It's our history, right? We have to teach those things. And I felt really bad that my African American students didn't know that Booker T. Washington grew up right down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's our history. And when you don't include all aspects of our history, that is unfortunate for everybody.
Right. And I had a guest couple on my show about a month or two ago, and we talked about this bill, and he kept saying it's anti-racism. No teacher cannot teach Black history and leave out racism. There's no way.
There's no way. It's not even giving justice to the history when you cut part of it out, right?
Right.
You can pretend like it didn't happen, but it happened. We can pretend like Booker T wasn't living right down the road as a slave in a shack. We can pretend like Charleston wasn't built on the backs of slaves, but it did. And to act like that didn't happen is disingenuous. And it doesn't acknowledge the contributions that the African American community have made to build the places that we're in. It might not have been voluntary, but you guys, that your community has done so much for Charleston. I mean, I think it's even, it's just, let's acknowledge it. That's awesome. Thank you for your contributions to our community.
And see, again, it also can tie into diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, but again, it's a long road to travel.
Well, right now they're trying to take away my health rights. They're trying to take my decisions away on what I can do with my body. Well, I'm too old for that, but they might even,
Yeah,
and it's crazy.
And again, the soon-to-be repeal of Roe v. Wade, but that's another issue right there on itself. Jeni, we're gonna wrap it up right here. Give me 2 minutes and tell the viewers why they should vote for Jeni Riser. Ready?
Oh, okay.
Go.
Well, all right. You should vote for Jeni Riser because, well, you have a choice to make. And there are people out there, there's lots of great candidates. There are some candidates who want to defund or reduce our police force in half, create 10 cities to give out needles, create clean injection sites, and do it without any community input or buy-in. There's some that have been on council for a long time, and I think we touched on the fact that there's a lot of talking around the problem, but we don't hear a whole lot of, a lot of solutions. And we all know what the problems are. And, I'm a kind of person that I don't like to meet just to meet. And I think the community should buy in to decisions that are being made in city council. And if I'm elected, I promise that I will be as transparent as I know to be. that I'm accessible, and I've been fighting for the community for a really long time. During the water crisis, I put together the first community meeting that happened. I was shocked that about 150 people showed up. I was thinking maybe 5 would. I helped to pass the above ground storage tank bill. I filed a complaint on behalf of businesses with the Public Service Commission during that time, with the water crisis, during the water crisis. And because of the settlement that the water company made with us, the civil litigation was settled and everybody got their money. And we have some real positives out of that case that we filed at the PSC, and one of them would be that the Elk Rivers, being tested regularly for any chemicals. I have advocated for small businesses and tried to rally small businesses around issues as much as I possibly can. We are really stuck in there. I have an intimate bird's eye view on what it's like to be a small business owner. I'm a mom first and foremost, and a wife first and foremost. And I know what it's like to live and want your kids to stay in a community and be close to you. I'm a West Virginian. I'm a Charlestonian. And I love this city, and I want to see more than I know we can do. I say this a lot, but I know we can do big things together. I know we can tackle hard problems together. If we just open our ears and listen to one another and really be genuine in solving problems. And I'm a genuine person. Anybody you talk to will tell you I'm a straight shooter. You'll always know what I'm thinking.
All right. Jeni Reiser, thank you very much for coming on to Our Voices. You take care, be safe, okay? Don't
All
go
right,
anywhere.
thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Home.
All right.